All right, you saltwater little leg humpers. This one's going to be a little different. Not really any ProMaster content. Well, kind of ProMaster content. I don't know, just generic automotive content. And a lot of dick jokes. This will probably be at least a two-parter, possibly a three-parter on getting the Tug Job ready for tugging. Because I need it, because I got rid of that Ford pickup truck that was doing the tugging, and there's some other things. I don't know, you may find it interesting. Who knows? Maybe I'm interesting enough where it doesn't have to be all about vans, and it can be about other things. All right, let's see what we got. All right, well, back in 2020, I picked this turd up for a few $100. This is actually the Barbie dream van in many ways. This is a 2003 Chevy 2500 plain-ass van, some rust, but it came with the right drivetrain for towing. 8-lug wheels, as you can see, 6-liter LS engine, LS based, even though it's branded Vortec, with a 4L80 transmission as opposed to the 4L60, which had so many problems. As you can see, I have removed said engine and transmission. She's not in there. This ridiculous van also has another feature I suppose I can show you. I use this van to tow, maybe 10 vans at various times, including once driving it all the way from Akron to Albuquerque and towing one of my vans all the way back. Check that out, though. It has motorized fold-out sides, which would have sat in front of the tool racks that were in here when I got it. And I don't know, you fold it out and it becomes your tool truck, I suppose. Feels a shame to throw away such a van with such an interesting feature. Nonetheless, I'm going to throw away such a van with such an interesting feature. That's where that went. The point of using this van is A, I had it. B, it only has 130,000 odd miles on it, which is nothing for one of these. And but most importantly is just how well this ridiculous turd performed while towing. Really shocking. A van of this type, even with a 6-liter, will get 16s, high 15s unloaded, but loaded, this thing would tow and get 14.5. Didn't matter the altitude, didn't matter how fast you were going. Really rock solid tow rig, and very, very, very ubiquitous and reliable, and that's what counts in a tow rig. So we have got a 6-liter and a 4L80. 6-liter and 4L80 will be going into this. Now you may remember this, which is called the Tug Job, from a previous video, called Love Letter to the Shop Van. So this I also picked up, I want to say in 2021, maybe 22, I can't recall. Man, this thing is the thing. It started life as a 1975 motorhome of some type. It has 86,000 miles on it, and somebody, I do not know who, although I know where, somewhere in northern Indiana, got it, chopped the frame, installed. That's a modern sleeper made by PACCAR, probably made, you know, since the year 2000 or something, and put this service bed on it. The service bed isn't really a service bed, is kooky, man. It is as wide as it is long, meaning it's as stubby as I am in the pants, but it's very wide because my poor name is Girth Brooks. It has provisions here, as you can see, for a 5th wheel, which is probably what it was used for. And the story I got is that the guy built this most likely for as a motorhome tug to tow, you know, brand new trailers, because all the trailers and motorhomes in this country are made in northern Indiana. Anyway, it is what it is. So this is the perfect vehicle to tow with. Now, after I bought it, it runs fine, or at least as fine as it can run. I might want to clean that up, but it's perfect. Sleeper, very comfortable, got lights, got an air vent. And as you know from that other video, I have a soft spot for the Chevy van, as you may have surmised. I mean, this is state-of-the-art for the disco era. And it's actually in very nice shape. Look at that, simulated wood grain Naga with modern van seats in it that I'm going to change. And as I say, this thing runs. I used it exactly once, brake controller. I used it once to tow. 86,530.2 miles. Used it only to tow a ProMaster once, and it was awful. This thing illustrates beautifully the difference in technology and how far it has come since 1975, which, it occurs to me, is 50 fucking years ago. It seems like just yesterday. Brand new, this engine would have had about maybe 180 horsepower, whereas brand new, the engine in that one would have had about 335, 340. That's double, and commensurate improvements in mileage and durability. This carbureted small block would have been worn to shit at 100,000 miles. That's why you think that's a lot, because that's when engines used to be worn out. It's going to be a battle to get that engine in here, not because it, look at that technology, that's way better than the stick. It's pretty tight in here. This one has the weird Hydro Boost system where the brakes go sideways. I got to figure that out, and I may have to convert it to forward-facing brakes. It's a little bit rusty, but it's actually, this thing's in very good condition and good enough. It's certainly going to last another 10 or 15 years before it rusts to nothing, and the motor is buried on deep in there. So we're going to have to do a lot of surgery. I'm probably going to have to swap to the modern radiator. I may have to put a hood scoop on it, all the things. But when it's done, with that correct drivetrain in this Tug Job, you got yourself the makings of a serious road dog. Whoa. Back in 21, I bought this brand new, which now looks like shit, but I bought it brand new. This is a steel toe. I assume that's how you pronounce that. This is the biggest one they sell. One problem with using dollies, I mean, you'd think the ProMaster would be a natural because it's front-wheel drive, so the rear wheels can use a dolly. However, there's about 2 dollies made in this country that are where that platter is wide enough. A ProMaster is 79 inches outside wheel to outside wheel, and this is 80 inches edge of the pan to edge of the pan. The problem with the steel toe, which wouldn't be a problem in a smaller vehicle or a shorter wheelbase vehicle, is that this platter turns like that. And that's all it does. So as you are driving along in this thing, the tires, which are then in the middle of the vehicle, imagine a van with a set of tires in the middle. What are those tires going to do as you turn? They're going to get dragged. And that's what happens with this. It's so bad because you can only turn at that angle that it will pick up this entire trailer with the van and skip it across the road and pick the rear of the tow vehicle up off the road and make it, it's horrible. It's the most terrifying and awful thing in the world. Luckily, this dolly will get retired. And I should also point out, you literally cannot back up more than a foot with this arrangement before it jackknifes into itself, and then you're just stabbing yourself in the ass. But we have something new. I picked this up. This is made by a company called Landgrabe. I have my little tote in front of it, and it is older and whatever, but the company's still around and they make it. The difference between the two, as you can see, you drive onto there, but the difference, look at that. The wheels turn, and they turn as indicated by what's happening with the pin. I do not know how exactly that works, but as you can see, the tires themselves turn, and that makes a big difference. So what I did before I acquired this fine piece of whatever this is, I loaded up a ProMaster and I towed it with the Tug Job, and it towed pretty good. You could turn with it. You can basically back up straight if you fight it enough, but at least you can back up 10 feet or something without killing yourself. The way this works is these release, the platter tips down. The dude I got it from, added these little skid, plates so that the thing can't go forward. And it's just barely wide enough. And obviously it clears the, when the wheels turn, they clear. Ooh, look how dry rotted those tires are. I probably won't be going very far on those. Is there a date code? Not that I can see. Is there a date code on this side? Yes, there is a date code on this side. 4th week of 1990. So that's plenty new. This dolly needs a little bit of work. I'd like to paint it, clean it up. I think it's missing lights in the back. Is that accurate? Yeah, and yeah. So it'll take a little bit of thing. But this is tested and is going to work. And here is the star of our show. 6 liters of LS, baby. As you can see, I've got it on a tire, on a cart. And this guy is going to be what powers the Tug Job. Say what you will about Chevrolet and their infinite wisdom and their infinite foibles, but this is one of their gems. The LS engine, 6 liters of fun, Almost unkillable, crazy durable, very cheap parts. I am adamant about the ubiquity of a tow rig, and actually most vehicles. I want it to be such that if I need a belt and I'm in the middle of, I don't know, Bend, Oregon, I don't have to go searching around for something weird. I don't have to wait for parts to come. I want it on the shelf and I go get it. So the goal of this swap is to keep as much of the guts of the LS as I can, such that I just walk into any parts store and it's all sitting there right on the shelf. That's what makes this going to be so difficult. That's the entire wiring harness, which would also entail the computer and the fuse box. I want that all on there, and I want it stock, and I want it with an OBD connector, so if I need to read a code, I just read a code, and so on. That's going to make this swap somewhat difficult, yet somewhat doable. That engine computer also controls the transmission, which is fully electronic, although pretty durable. As I say, the smaller, more common 4L60s had a lot of trouble, but the 4L80 seems like it lasts, and boy, this thing was a beast to tow with. It was just great. You didn't even have to think about it. 4 speeds. This thing should, again, turn 30 or 2,300 RPM maybe when it's all, at speed, when you're all said and done. There's going to be a lot of problems along the way. While this block is basically the same size as the small block Chevy of yore that's in the Tug Job now, I'm going to have to figure out something with the AC compressor, which goes there and is probably going to hit the frame, and I don't want to have to cut the frame. I got to suss out the tensioners for all this stuff. I've got to suss out all this wiring, and I've got to make it work. And again, I want it to work seamlessly. This engine, before I put it in, just because I'm a little flamboyant, I want to paint it and clean it up and change some things. I want to go through here because these exhaust manifold bolts are so rusty. I'd rather them break here with it on the cart and I can replace them. I may have to put in headers someday, who knows? This is just heat shielding, which I want to replace, and a few other things. Pretty exciting. The smarter folks among you would ask why I didn't just slam a Pentastar into the Tug Job, because if you think about it, the 1975 engine in that thing has about 180, maybe 190 horsepower. This thing, as it sits, has 240 horsepower, if not 260. And in Challenger applications, they had as much as 303 horsepower. But the truth is, a small engine screaming its head off is going to get worse mileage than a large engine just loafing along, and the concomitant stresses and thermal loads and all the fun stuff that's going to happen beside. However, you're right. I could have just stuck a Pentastar in it. All I would need is a 6-speed out of a Jeep, some clutch parts, figure out a freestanding computer, all that. But, I would have loved to have a Hemi, but I had this. And that part of hot rodding is I fucking had it, and I didn't have to pay anything for it because I already owned it. That's what counts. Hiding down here in the dark is the factory computer and the factory fuse box from the 2003 that I've got to integrate into the Tug Job somehow. I guess the fuse box isn't super necessary. My understanding is it really only takes about 8 or 10 wires to make an LS run in any vehicle, but I'd like to keep it as stock as possible because, I don't know, I have it and it's nice when shit is stock. I also want the AC to work. I want the cruise control to work. I don't know about the speedometer. I might have to fuck around with that, but whatever. Hopefully, in the next part of this video, this will be all nice and painted. I've even selected an exciting and perhaps somewhat flamboyant color for it. Well, you lousy schmucks, I can't speak for you, but I think that's going to be pretty cool when it's done, if it works. It took us me and one other guy who I roped into helping me with this, took us a full day to get that engine and transmission out of the 2003 van, and it was a rusty pile. It was a mess, and we had to fight a lot of stupid shit. I am going to spend a couple of days prepping that engine, replacing the parts on it that I want to do, and painting it, and then have it ready. It'll take us another day to get the small block out of the Tug Job, and then that's when it becomes hard. All that stuff is easy. The destruction is easy. It's the construction that makes it. Mounting the thing will be relatively easy because I'm not the first one to traipse through this virginal field of virtue. There's adapter plates to mount a LS engine into a C10 or C15 truck from the 70s, and the van frame is the same basically. So there's some swap parts there, but I want to try and do it without spending any money because I don't have much money, and all my money's tied up in the app, and I don't like spending money. I could just throw money at all these problems, but that's no fun. Where's the fun? When we're done, we're gonna have something really cool. I would assume there'll be another part of this video, and maybe even 2 more parts, because I suspect we're gonna run into a lot of problems when we go to wire this thing and make it perfect in terms of how it functions. Getting the OBD port to work, unlocking the VATS, the vehicle anti-theft system of the Chevy computer will be tricky, although I think I found a workaround for that, and the wiring and all that crap. And in theory, I should take the wiring harness apart and get rid of all the unused wires, leaving only what's there, and make it smaller, but I don't know. A lot of that cosmetic stuff doesn't excite me that much. Where I know I'm going to get hung up is on the stuff that I don't know. The 75 Chevy van has a thing called, well, it has Hydro Boost. It has the power steering compressor also works the brakes. So does the 2003 van. It has like a lesser form of Hydro Boost, where it has an electrical solenoid that adds extra power in addition to engine vacuum. I got to suss that out. And then I got to suss out the air conditioning, because the 75 van runs on, you know, R whatever, and the modern van runs on R134A or whatever. Got to figure that one out. And granted, you can just go and spend $2 grand and get an aftermarket air conditioning system and it'll just work, but I don't want to do that. Also, I have to figure out how to tell the engine that the air conditioner is on. That should just be one wire, because it'll raise the idle, and it's the kind of thing it needs to know. The speedometer, I may have to go without a speedometer and just use a GPS speedometer or an old phone with an app on it. I don't really care about the speedometer all that much, although I would like some gauges. And of course, if the OBD port works, I can use any phone app, including my own damn phone app, and just, which would probably work to read at least the RPM and the speed. I don't know. We got a lot to figure out. But Tug Job 2.0, I guess I could call that. Tug Job Supreme, Tug Job Extra, Tug Job Happy Ending. I suppose when it's built, this thing will be the happy ending at the end of a really good tug job. You didn't think of it. All right, well, that was this week's video. Again, just the tip videos on Wednesday. I'll have more tips for you. I like the just the tip because I can just bang out, give you a little tip quickly. Isn't that fun? And you don't have to sit around and listen to my dick jokes. Love you. Bye. She's a goddamn lovely man.